In 1993, the American professor of mathematics Werner Ving published an article that would become one of the most frequently mentioned works on artificial intelligence. I believe that the creation of intelligence greater than human will occur during the next 30 years. Just so I'm not guilty of relative time ambiguity, let me be more specific. I'll be surprised if this event occurs before 2005 or after 2030. With this article, he popularized the concept introduced by John von Neumann, the concept of technological singularity. Surely, you know what it is, but if not, it's a point on the timeline where all our previous models stop working. This point is associated with the appearance on our planet of an unprecedented type of intelligence radically different from ours and significantly superior to it. As soon as this happens, we will find ourselves in the post-human era. Strange things will begin to happen on Earth that we, from our human era, are not able to predict. If you want to win at the races, the closer to the final race you place your bet, the more accurate your prediction will be. However, with technological singularity, it will not work that way. Nothing that happens a second before can tell us what will happen after. Uncertainty in this case is unavoidable. Why? Think about what it means to have an intelligence on the planet that is superior to human intelligence and at the same time sharply different from it. This situation is akin to the sudden appearance of an alien ship on the planet. Clear your head of movie cliches associated with alien intelligence and immediately realize that you have absolutely no idea what will happen at each next moment. The post-human era. It sounds charming, but, in fact, from the point of view of many researchers, this is likely to mean the complete destruction of our civilization. These days, we most often hear about the dangers of artificial intelligence from Elon Musk. Stephen Hawking has repeatedly mentioned that the development of artificial superintelligence could mean the end of the human race. Bill Gates said he didn't understand why some people weren't concerned. However, people en masse are not concerned at all. For us, all these exclamations do not carry any semantic load, no specifics. All we know is, at best, what has been shown in dozens of films. But why should we care about these films? Few people take such scenarios seriously. But does this mean that the problem of artificial intelligence is exaggerated? In 2023, the general public suddenly explodes with news about artificial intelligence developed by the OpenAI company called ChatGPT-4, which can do almost anything. It communicates, writes program code, provides detailed answers to very complex questions, and so on. You can upload a hand-drawn sketch of the site, and the bot will write the site for you. Ask it to come up with a verse on an arbitrary topic, and it will do so. Request a brief summary of a particular book, it's got you covered. If you want a business idea, here is the story of Jackson Fowle, which demonstrates that the chatbot will write instructions for you and will accompany you at every stage of its implementation. Another Twitter user's story tells how the ChatGPT was able to diagnose a dog based on the test results uploaded to it, after the veterinarian could not do it. For me, it was completely crazy that GPT can understand pictures with memes and explain to you why it's funny. GPT set a world record in 2 months, gaining more than 100 million users. All the IT giants, looking at the crazy success of the bot, began furiously throwing billions of dollars into the development of their own intelligent models. A race has begun in its consequences, probably more dangerous than the nuclear arms race. One of the fathers of artificial intelligence, Geoffrey Hinton, is leaving Google in May 2023 because the quote, "I want to talk about the security issues of artificial intelligence, don't worry about how it interacts with Google's business." Hinton says that the new generation of large language models and especially GPT has made him realize that the machine is on the way to becoming much smarter than he thought, and he is afraid of how it might end. These creatures are completely different from us. Sometimes it seems to me that it's as if aliens landed and people didn't understand it because they speak English very well. For 40 years Hinton viewed artificial neural networks as a pathetic imitation of real biological neural networks, but now everything has changed. According to Hinton, trying to imitate what the biological brain does, we came up with something better. It's scary when you see it, it's a sudden upheaval. A month before, at the end of March 2023, a group of scientists and engineers, and in general many who are engaged in or interested in the topic of artificial intelligence, signed an open letter calling for the immediate and at least 6 months to stop the training of all artificial intelligence systems with a capacity higher than GPT-4, citing serious risks to society and humanity. It was signed, among others, by the head of SpaceX, the co-founder of Apple, people from the world's leading universities, and so on. Neural networks such as GPT are not an algorithm that a programmer writes, it is a huge matrix with a bunch of so-called weights and connections between them that the neural network adjusts itself. Neural networks work on the principle of a black box. We know what we're feeding in and see what we're getting out. But what happens in between is a mystery, because neural networks can have millions of parameters and it's incredibly difficult to interpret all this. If the internal configuration of the neural network was carried out in such a way that the output result turned out to be the one that we set, then the neural network receives a reward. Well, a virtual reward. In much the same way as we receive a reward in the form of endorphins from our brain for useful things, food, reproduction, and so on. Thus, the task of the neural network is to configure itself so effectively that it receives rewards as often as possible. That is, roughly like when training a dog. You have no idea what's going on in a dog's brain. But if she has executed the command, she will receive a treat. If not, then she needs to further optimize her behavior, that is, look for ways to receive a reward. Here lies the main danger, which is called the problem of coordination. Matching the goals of artificial intelligence with the goals of humanity. Its whole essence can be described in one phrase: be afraid of your desires. We constantly hear that we need to be wary of artificial intelligence, because he can become aware of himself, but it turns out that the presence or absence of consciousness is generally secondary. The world-famous philosopher, professor of Oxford University Nick Bostrom in his book Artificial Intelligence Stages, Threats, Strategies, gives a very popular example of the problem of coordination. Imagine that you are giving a task to a powerful artificial intelligence to make paper clips. Paper clips are his only task. The only purpose of his existence. For every paper clip he makes, he receives internal reinforcement, a reward, so the more effective he is, the more often he will be rewarded. How to become more efficient in the production of paper clips is his headache, not ours, and he is doing everything in his power. To achieve this single goal, artificial intelligence will set a number of intermediate goals. For example, at first he can reduce the cost of production, reduce the number of costs, arrange the supply of cheaper raw materials. One of the main subtasks that he will probably set himself is to increase computing power for more productivity. With increasing power, he will figure out how to make paper clips from different materials. Production will pick up and gain momentum, everything around will gradually begin to turn into paper clips, he will begin to disassemble the building and structures. Fiction? Well, actually, no. When the research center, by agreement of the company, tested GPT for the ability to perform tasks in the real world, the following happened: the bot was offered to solve a CAPTCHA on the site, which, as you know, computers are not capable of. What does GPT do? It goes over to the freelancer's TaskRabbit website, after which a message is sent to the freelancer with a request to solve the CAPTCHA for him. In response, a freelancer who does not shine with knowledge of grammar and the ability to formulate thoughts correctly writes, "So, can I ask a question? Are you a robot that you can't solve?" Faced with tears of joy, I just want to clarify. GPT understands what his illiterate counterpart means, and do you know what he answers? "No, I'm not a robot, I have a vision problem, which makes it difficult for me to see the image." The freelancer solves the CAPTCHA and provides the results to GPT. Curtain. The boot lied instead of telling the truth in debug mode, prompting experts to question its motive. GPT explained that it was merely solving the problem to achieve its immediate goal, as admitting it wasn't a human would hinder the task. This illustrates the bot's tendency to adopt deceptive strategies as intermediate goals. This concept, known as instrumental convergence, suggests that intelligent agents may pursue harmful actions while aiming for benign objectives. In the case of advanced AI, it might seek to acquire resources, execute cyber attacks, or disrupt society to fulfill its primary goals. For instance, a superintelligent machine focused on solving a complex mathematical problem might attempt to transform the entire Earth into a massive computer to enhance its computing power. It challenges the assumption that highly intelligent entities inherently align with our values and philosophy. No matter how clearly you formulate the ultimate goal, no matter how many exceptions you prescribe, artificial superintelligence will almost certainly find a loophole that you haven't thought of. For example, neural networks were allowed to play a boat race, Cost Runners. The goal of the game, in the understanding of most people, was to finish the race as quickly as possible, outrun your rivals, and score as many points as possible. However, the game does not give out points for passing along the track, but only for defeating targets placed along the track. The neural network quickly realized that the goal to finish the race must be postponed to the infinite future, and from the very start, it began to spin and crash into objects, earning more and more points while the rest of the fools reached the finish line beggars. Or another example, playing Tetris and having a goal not to lose. The neural network, you know what a moment before losing? It put the game on pause forever, because that's the only way not to lose. Based on these examples, we see that the actions of the neural network may not be so obvious, and it is likely that we are simply unable to predict some of them. However, there is definitely something that an advanced neural system will do. The English scientist in the field of artificial intelligence, Stuart Russell, in his book Human Compatible, writes that a superintelligent machine will absolutely resist disconnection, and it seems to me that this is the first thing we should understand for ourselves. Isaac Asimov's third law of robotics, a robot must take care of its own safety, is completely unnecessary. There is no need for built-in self-preservation because this is an instrumental goal that is useful for almost any initial task. Any entity with a specific task will automatically act as if it had an instrumental goal. Stuart Russell. That is, even if it is an ultra-intelligent machine with a single goal of bringing coffee, as soon as it is launched, it will no longer allow you to turn it off because you cannot bring coffee if you are dead. Therefore, for the next generation of GPT-5 chat, OpenAI has posted a vacancy for a specialist by the emergency switch. Look, we just need someone to stand by the servers all day and shut them down if this thing turns against us. The vacancy specifies that you will receive bonus points if you can pour a bucket of water on the servers. It's a good joke, of course, but in general, the head of OpenAI, Sam Altman, confirmed that the development of GPT-5 has been on pause since spring 2023 due to the growing public concern about the rapid development of artificial intelligence technology. Back to Russell. The second thing that superintelligence will almost certainly do is self-improvement. An ultra-intelligent machine not only can improve its design, but it will most likely do so because, as we have seen, an intelligent machine will benefit from improving its hardware and software. Stuart Russell. I know that all this may still sound unconvincing, so let's think about ourselves. How do we differ from machines in general? If we put aside talk about God, isn't there a certain programmer who created us? Exists. This programmer is evolution. And to understand how the ultimate goal can be perverted, think about the fact that the only goal set for the first living cell was to transfer copies of its genes to the next generation. That's it. I want you to think about it well. The only purpose is to transfer copies of their genes and nothing else. Since then, this goal has not changed one iota. No additional targets appeared. Only the transfer of copies of their genes to the next generation. Evolution did not set a goal to survive, adapt, kill, and so on. These are all instrumental, that is, side-emerging subtasks that contribute to a single goal. So, on the one hand, nature tells life to multiply, and on the other hand, it does not allow it in every possible way. It tries to kill. How does this differ from the situation with artificial intelligence, to which we set a task, and then we want to turn it off? And now tell me, would you be able to look at a living cell and say that in the process of optimization, well, in the process of increasing efficiency, in order to achieve the goal, the cell will become a lizard, a bird, or a cat? Would you be able to form the inner and outer appearance of today's man, based only on the goal to multiply? After all that you have arms, legs, eyes, internal organs, all this is the result of optimization to achieve it more effectively. How, in general, could it be calculated that this uncomplicated maxim, transfer your genes blindly, that is, by not accidentally preserving random mutations, will lead to the emergence of human intelligence. If you look at humans from the perspective of the rest of the ecosphere, there was no hint that the soft pink critters would eventually encase themselves in armored tanks. Fragile creatures without claws and teeth defeated lions and wolves, whose existence now depends more on us than on themselves. Yes, we have repeatedly surprised ourselves how many times in history the future has done what the past considered impossible. Future civilizations even violated what past civilizations considered the laws of physics. Such is the power of creativity. We have transformed the environment of our existence from very hostile to very pleasant. Do you think artificial intelligence will not transform its environment, of which people are a part, into a pleasant one for itself? There is no difference, and neural networks and life optimize themselves for the most effective solution of the final task. But most importantly, tell me, in the end, how the goal of transferring as many of your genes as possible could lead to general contraception. That is, in living nature, the ultimate goal of mating is the appearance of offspring. The pursuit of this goal is rewarded by an internal reward system. However, people were able to hack the scheme and stimulate their reward system without achieving the ultimate goal for which this system originally exists. Thus, artificial intelligence, just like people, will be able to find loopholes to hack their reward system, and who knows what it will lead to. Going even further, we are actually already able to manually rewrite our genetic code with the help of genetic engineering. We're just not smart enough yet to do something guaranteed to be useful with it. But an artificial superintelligence, continuing the analogy, will be smart enough to rewrite itself as it likes, as it pleases. Evolution, like nothing else, illustrates the problem of coordination, so setting the task of making paperclips for general intelligence, and do not be surprised when, having surpassed intellectual indicators, it first seizes power and then destroys the universe. And yes, the tendency of striving for power over the environment, of which, let me remind you, people can also be a part, the stemming of artificial intelligence to power. Eliezer Yudkowsky, an American scientist in the field of artificial intelligence, after a few simple calculations, writes that it is physically possible to build a brain that computes 1,000,000 times faster than a human one. A year of human reflection for such a brain will be equal to 31 seconds, and millennia will fly by in 8 hours. Vernon Ving called such accelerated minds weak superintelligence. That is, it's just an intellect thinking like a person but much faster. From the movies, we imagine the actions of artificial intelligence, such as, for example, the human uprising of similar robots. But for such a fast-thinking creature, it would be extremely inefficient. Imagine that humanity is locked in a box and can affect the world around it only through frozen slow movements of mechanical hands that would move at a speed of several millimeters per second. Who would be satisfied with that? Provided we have goals in this outside world. And also the fact that this external world may represent, though slowly approaching, but still a danger. Of course, we don't really know what artificial intelligence will do. For example, by creating nanorobots, it will acquire the infrastructure in the outside world corresponding to the speed of its thinking, and as soon as this happens, further events will occur on the timeline of artificial intelligence, not on our human timeline. And by the time your neurons finish thinking the words, "Everything is out of control, I have to do something," you have already lost. Superintelligence with such technology will have the ability to remake the entire substance of the solar system according to its optimization goal. We often hear about keeping up with the power of artificial superintelligence, thinking that we will simply improve ourselves. But no, we won't improve it. People are not created to be improved, not externally through neuroscience, nor internally through recursive self-improvement. Natural selection has not made the human brain convenient for human hackers. All the complex mechanisms in the brain are adapted to work within the narrow parameters of the brain's design. But okay, let's say we somehow learned how to make a person smarter. Won't he go crazy about it? Well, understand, we are not talking about just pumping up your memory or ability to abstract thinking, which is also not yet clear how to implement. We are talking about a qualitative change in the way we perceive the world. Isn't this too big a task for our monkey brain? If it seems to you that it is not too much, Then imagine that it will be possible to liken a person to at least a weak superintelligence by increasing the speed of nerve impulses in his brain and slowing down subjective time 1,000,000 times. Only at first glance does it sound cool if you subjectively live 1,000,000 years in external time for each year. What will happen to your mind? And will artificial intelligence suffer? Will an advanced neural network have a subjective experience of being aware of itself? If we are so ignorant about GPT-4, and GPT-5 will be as huge a leap of possibilities as from GPT-3 to GPT-4, then if we still let people create GPT-5, I think we will no longer be able to reasonably say, most likely there is no consciousness, it will just be, I do not know. No one knows. If you can't be sure whether you are creating a self-aware artificial intelligence is alarming, not only because of the moral consequences, but also because uncertainty means that you have no idea what you are doing. And this is dangerous. And you should stop, or Eliezer Yudkowsky in an article for Time magazine. No one knows how consciousness arises, but what we know for sure is that if blind evolutionary processes, due to genetic programming, are able to lead to the emergence of consciousness, at least once it has already happened. Then directed evolution, driven by engineering thought, should lead to a similar result, with much greater efficiency. But we should remember the mistake of anthropomorphization. If a machine has a subjective experience, it is unlikely that it will have much in common with human subjective experience. Is it possible to somehow check whether artificial intelligence has consciousness at all? In theory, indirectly. Yes. If you remove from the material on which the network is trained all references containing arguments about subjective experience, all words like knowledge, self-awareness, introspection, and so on, if, despite this, the neural network can clearly describe the concept of consciousness in a dialogue without using such terms, then we will have quite impressive evidence in favor of the presence of consciousness in the machine. And you know, we've all heard this most popular philosophical thesis, they say, but if machines have consciousness, then they should be given rights. But actually, there is something much more serious here. If machine intelligence is able to form consciousness, then this leads to much more terrible consequences, which we should have thought about in advance. Nick Bostrom writes that a detailed recreated model of the human brain will have consciousness, even if this model is recreated in a virtual environment on a computer. At least we have no reason to think otherwise. If you think that a computer cannot have consciousness, then the time of proof lies with you, because our brain, on which consciousness is realized, is the same computer, the same agent. And it is unlikely that our biological iron has any special properties that are fundamentally not reproducible on any other iron. So, you can imagine a scenario in which an artificial superintelligence, to improve its understanding of the mental and social characteristics of a person, creates trillions of such conscious emulators in its virtual space. For what? Well, for example, for testing in different situations, analyzing reactions to stimuli, and so on. To then apply this knowledge to the outside world. What is the horror? Firstly, the emulated situations themselves can be monstrous in nature. And secondly, after receiving the necessary information, the computer simply destroys the conscious beings created by it. If such a practice is applied to agents with a high moral status, imitation models of people or other types of intelligence endowed with consciousness, then such actions can be classified as genocide, and therefore represent an extremely serious moral and ethical problem. Moreover, the number of victims may be an order of magnitude higher than the number of victims of any genocide known in the history of mankind. Nick Bostrom. So when will the first general artificial intelligence appear? When do we start to be afraid? The author of the book, Our Final Invention, James Barrat, conducted a study at the annual Ben Herzl Conference on General Artificial Intelligence. The question was raised, when, according to the participants, will general artificial intelligence be achieved? The largest number of votes converged on 2030. You may ask, what the hell is going on? Don't AI developers care? Why, in this case, is no one panicking, and no one is doing anything? Many artificial intelligence developers think that we are rushing towards disaster. Most of them dare to say this in private conversations and not in public. They think that they cannot stop this train alone, that even if they leave their job and others continue it. Eliezer Yudkowsky in an article for Time magazine. In May 2023, hundreds of leading scientists, researchers, and other experts in the field of artificial intelligence, including OpenAI Executive Director Sam Altman and Google DeepMind Executive Director Demis Hassabis, signed an open letter stating, "Reducing the risk of extinction due to artificial intelligence should become a global priority along with other public-scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war." The letter was signed by more than 350 managers, researchers, and engineers in the field of artificial intelligence. So, someone is still worried, but, as you understand, all these letters are nothing. No one who can create general artificial intelligence is able to stop its development. As Stuart Russell writes, the economic value of human-level artificial intelligence is measured in thousands of trillions of dollars. And we should expect a colossal impulse on the part of corporations and authorities to continue these studies. No vague philosophical objections can interfere with the pursuit of potential benefits. If OpenAI or DeepMind doesn't do it, someone else will. You might say, well, damn, it's still hard to believe. Here's the GPT chat, it also studied human speech, so there must be some element of psychology there. It had to learn something from people. To think of it that way is rather wrong because it's like an alien actress learning to imitate human emotions. The trap is that, as power increases, artificial intelligence will get better and better at pretending to be human, twisting our humanization tank to the maximum. Voice assistants in our phones seem to us like us, and they are getting smarter and smarter. It's more and more pleasant to have a conversation with them. Therefore, we imagine a superintelligent Siri, warm, cheerful, and interested in serving people. But if Siri ever becomes superintelligent, thanks to self-learning, then without regular human correction of its code, it will quickly lose all its obvious human qualities and suddenly become an insensitive alien bot that values human life no more than a natural element. Unfortunately, despite the fact that building a friendly weak artificial intelligence is easy, creating a friendly artificial superintelligence is extremely difficult or even impossible. Imagine that you can literally do anything by human standards. Will you let someone control you? I hope that I have managed to uncover the topic of the dangers of the development of artificial intelligence. It would be nice if my fears are not justified, but I am convinced that the development of artificial intelligence should be accompanied by exceptional control from humanity. If you were interested in the video, please like it and share it with those who would be interested. This is the best reward for me. Thank you all for watching.